Let me paint you a picture of automotive insanity. It's 1991. An Italian car dealer looks at a dead French brand that hasn't built anything in 40 years and thinks, I can fix this. He then hires the guy who just created the Ferrari F40, the most legendary supercar of its generation, and tells him to build something faster. The result? A 3.5-liter V12 with 4 turbochargers, 553 horsepower, all-wheel drive, a carbon fiber chassis built by a French aerospace company, and a 0 to 60 time that made Ferrari executives choke on their espresso. This is the Bugatti EB110, the forgotten supercar that gave the Veyron its DNA. And the tragic story of the dreamer who built it, lost everything, and never got credit for changing hypercars forever. Romano Artioli was born in 1932 near Mantua, Italy, which, fun fact, is the hometown of legendary racing driver Tazio Nuvolari. Maybe there was something in the water. By the early 50s, Artioli had built himself into Italy's largest importer of Japanese cars. Then he became the largest Ferrari dealer in the country. The man collected Ferraris like some people collect stamps, except stamps don't appreciate at 20% annually. But Artioli had a different obsession. In 1952, the same year Bugatti officially ceased production, the 20-year-old Italian made a vow. He would bring Bugatti back from the dead. It would take him 39 years. But obsession doesn't check calendars. In 1987, after 2 years of discreet negotiations with the French government, because apparently buying a legendary car brand requires spy movie levels of secrecy, Artioli secured the rights to the Bugatti name. The French were probably thinking, sure, take this dead brand. Good luck, crazy Italian. Artioli was thinking, I'm going to build the fastest car in the world, and I'm going to do it in Italy, surrounded by Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Maserati, just to prove I can. He founded Bugatti Automobili SPA and immediately started planning the most ambitious supercar project anyone had attempted in decades. Because why dream small when you can dream impossible? Most car companies find an existing factory. Artioli built a cathedral. He commissioned his cousin, architect Giampaolo Benedini, to design a facility in Campo Galliano, near Modena. The result was a 240,000 square meter complex that looked more like a modern art museum than a car factory. They called it La Fabbrica Blu, the Blue Factory. It featured design studios, engine development facilities, a private test track, and air conditioning so perfect that Artioli said employees would feel as though sitting in open air. This was 1988. Most Italian car factories still had workers sweating through summer. Artioli built his people a palace. The factory opened at the end of 1991, on what would have been Ettore Bugatti's 109th birthday. Because Artioli understood something crucial. If you're resurrecting a legend, the details matter. For the technical side, Artioli recruited Paolo Stanzani, former Lamborghini engineer who had worked on the Miura and Countach. You know, just casual supercar royalty. Stanzani's vision was ambitious, bordering on lunatic. He designed a 3.5-liter V12, inspired by the same displacement limits seen in late 80s Formula One, because why not aim for F1 level technology in a road car? But here's where it gets ridiculous. Instead of 1 or 2 turbochargers like normal humans would use, Stanzani specified 4 IHI turbochargers. The reasoning? 4 smaller turbos would spool faster than 2 large ones, minimizing the dreaded turbo lag. The engine would breathe through 60 valves, 5 per cylinder, and 12 individual throttle bodies. This wasn't a car engine. This was an engineering thesis with wheels. 553 horsepower from 3.5 liters. That's 158 horsepower per liter in 1991. For context, the Ferrari F40 made 478 horsepower from a larger engine. The Lamborghini Diablo made 492. Let that sink in. Now, designing a car worthy of the Bugatti name? That's where things got complicated. Artioli commissioned Marcello Gandini, the legendary designer behind the Countach, Miura, and Stratos, to create the EB110's body. Gandini delivered something angular, aggressive, and very much in line with early 90s supercar aesthetics. Artioli looked at it and said, no. He found Gandini's design inconsistent with Bugatti's legacy of elegance. The man who designed some of the most iconic supercars ever was essentially told his homework wasn't good enough. So who did Artioli turn to? His cousin, the architect, Giampaolo Benedini, the same guy who designed the factory, had zero automotive design experience. But Artioli asked him to refine Gandini's concept anyway. The result was smoother, more timeless, more Bugatti. Sometimes the best automotive designers aren't automotive designers at all. But just as the EB110 prototypes were nearing completion, Paolo Stanzani, the engineering genius behind the whole project, left the company. The official reason was disagreements over business strategy. The unofficial reason? Probably the same reason every engineer eventually fights with every executive: money, timelines, and ego. Suddenly, Artioli had the most ambitious supercar project in history, and no technical director to finish it. He needed someone who could take a nearly complete prototype and turn it into a production reality. Someone who understood turbocharging, carbon fiber, and going impossibly fast. He needed the father of the F40. Nicola Materazzi wasn't just any engineer. This was the man who had designed the Ferrari F40, the last car personally approved by Enzo Ferrari himself. The guy literally invented the template for modern supercars. His resume read like a greatest hits album of Italian performance. Lancia Stratos rally cars, Ferrari 288 GTO, Ferrari's turbo Formula One engines. Italy's undisputed king of forced induction. When Artioli approached him in late 1991, Materazzi was working for Cagiva's motorcycle racing program. Good job. Safe job. But the chance to create something that could beat his own F40? That was an offer Materazzi couldn't refuse. Materazzi arrived and immediately started making changes. The original aluminum honeycomb chassis? Gone. Replaced with full carbon fiber, manufactured by Aerospatiale, the French aerospace company. Because when you need the lightest, strongest material possible, you call the people who build rockets. He also solved a critical problem with the engine. The original prototypes had excessive friction between titanium components. The engine was literally destroying itself on the dynamometer. Materazzi fixed it. Then he addressed the handling. The original all-wheel drive system sent 40% of power to the front and 60% to the rear. Test drivers complained it pushed too much in corners. Materazzi changed it to 27% front, 73% rear. More neutral, more controllable, more fun. The man who created the F40 was now creating its successor under a different brand. 553 horsepower, 451 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in around 3.4 seconds, factory claimed. Real-world testing showed 3.9 to 4.5 seconds, depending on how aggressively you treated that clutch. But even the slow times were faster than almost everything else on sale. Top speed? 212 miles per hour. Tested, verified, documented. The Ferrari F40 topped out at 201. The Lamborghini Diablo at 202. The EB110 GT wasn't just competitive, it was the new benchmark. September 15th, 1991. Paris. The Champs-Élysées. Exactly 110 years after Ettore Bugatti's birth. Hence the name EB110. Romano Artioli unveiled his creation to the world. The event was pure theater. Models in blue gowns, champagne towers, Italian opera. Artioli understood that selling a $350,000 car required selling a dream. And the car? Critics called it one of the most advanced automobiles ever built. The quad-turbo V12. The carbon fiber chassis. The all-wheel drive system that actually worked. This wasn't just a supercar. It was a glimpse of the future. Artioli's 39-year dream had finally become metal. If you're enjoying this story of Italian ambition and German-beating engineering, hit subscribe. We cover the forgotten legends, the engineering impossibilities, and the corporate disasters that shaped supercar history. Now back to the EB110, because things were about to get even more insane. Because 553 horsepower apparently wasn't enough, Materazzi developed the EB110 SS Super Sport. 50 additional horsepower, bringing the total to 603. 330 pounds lighter through extensive use of carbon fiber body panels, and a top speed target of 220 miles per hour. In May 1993, at the Nardo test track in southern Italy, the EB110 SS hit 355 kilometers per hour. That's 221 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest production cars ever tested at that time. The Jaguar XJ220 had effectively held the production car speed record at 217 miles per hour. The EB110 SS didn't just beat it, it embarrassed it. Here's how you know a car is genuinely fast. Formula One world champions buy them. In early 1994, Michael Schumacher, fresh off his first F1 championship, purchased a Bugatti EB110 SS. He specified yellow exterior with blue GT interior, because Schumacher apparently had opinions about color combinations. According to Artioli, Schumacher didn't ask for a discount, he paid full price. Quote, "Clearly a fan." The greatest driver of his generation chose the EB110 over every other supercar on the market. That's not marketing, that's validation. Let's pause and appreciate what an Italian car dealer accomplished. He bought a dead French brand, built a state-of-the-art factory in Italy, hired the guy who created the F40 to design something faster, produced a car that beat Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Jaguar at their own game, got Michael Schumacher as a customer. If this were a movie, we'd be heading toward the triumphant ending. But this isn't a movie. The problem with building the most advanced supercar in the world is that it costs money. Lots of money. More money than the Italian supercar market in a recession could sustain. The early 90s were brutal for luxury goods. The Gulf War had scared American buyers. The Italian economy was collapsing. The yen was rising, affecting global trade. Suddenly, $350,000 supercars weren't flying off the lot. Artioli had planned for success. He hadn't planned for a global economic crisis. In 1993, in a move that would prove fatally ambitious, Artioli purchased Lotus from General Motors. The idea made sense on paper. Lotus had engineering expertise and a respected brand. Combining it with Bugatti could create a supercar powerhouse. Fun fact, Artioli named the Lotus Elise after his granddaughter, Elisa. Adorable detail that makes what happened next even more painful. But the Lotus acquisition came with debt, significant debt. And Artioli was also funding development of the EB112, a four-door sedan that would never see production. He was building an empire on a foundation that was already cracking. In December 1992, Nicola Materazzi left Bugatti. The official story was irreconcilable differences with Artioli. The real story? Materazzi was a purist who wanted a lighter, simpler car, possibly rear-wheel drive, possibly with only 2 turbochargers instead of 4. Artioli wanted a showcase of technology and luxury. Materazzi opposed the EB112 sedan project, believing it diverted focus and finances from what actually mattered. A late evening discussion ended with the engineer walking away from his creation. The father of the F40 and the EB110 would later describe it simply: they had different visions for what Bugatti should be. With Materazzi gone, the company brought in Mauro Forghieri, legendary former Ferrari Formula One technical director, to oversee development. But the focus had shifted to the EB112 sedan, and the financial situation was deteriorating. Suppliers started complaining about delayed payments. Orders for the EB110 slowed as the recession deepened. The beautiful blue factory, with its air conditioning and art gallery aesthetics, was bleeding money. Artioli had bet everything on Bugatti succeeding, and the universe was calling that bet. Here's the tragic irony. The EB110 wasn't a failure. Every car built was sold. Critics loved it. Michael Schumacher loved it. The engineering was legitimately groundbreaking. Bugatti didn't die because the car was bad. Bugatti died because the world was bad, at exactly the wrong time. On September 23, 1995, Romano Artioli filed for bankruptcy. $125 million in debt. The blue factory shuttered. Around 139 EB110s built, give or take a few prototypes. The EB112 sedan prototype sat unfinished on the factory floor. Artioli's 39-year dream lasted exactly 4 years in production. Workers arrived to find the gates locked. Equipment would be auctioned off. The test track would grow silent. A dream of Italian excellence, French heritage, and engineering brilliance ended with lawyers and spreadsheets. In the years following the bankruptcy, Artioli made some interesting claims. He alleged industrial sabotage. He claimed that EB110s destined for Germany were delivered with loosened steering columns. He suggested a coordinated effort to destroy his company. He never named names. The allegations were never proven. Make of that what you will. What's undeniable is that Artioli lost his life's work. He was forced to sell Lotus to Proton in 1996. He watched as Volkswagen purchased the Bugatti brand in 1998, taking his dream and eventually turning it into the Veyron. Whether sabotage or simply bad luck, the outcome was the same. Romano Artioli ended up with nothing. Here's a detail that will haunt your soul. The Blue Factory still stands in Campogalliano. Empty. Abandoned since 1995. When Volkswagen acquired the Bugatti brand, they covered the original logos with blue stickers. Those stickers are now peeling. The Bugatti name is slowly re-emerging, like a ghost refusing to stay buried. A groundskeeper named Ezio Pavesi, who has worked there since 1990, still maintains the property with his son. Quote, "We still get mail from people who don't know the factory closed." The most advanced automotive facility of its era is now a monument to what could have been. Nicola Materazzi didn't disappear after leaving Bugatti. In 2000, he founded B Engineering and created the Adonis, using leftover EB110 chassis that had survived the bankruptcy. He enlarged the engine to 3.76 liters, replaced the 4 small turbos with 2 larger ones, and switched from all-wheel drive to rear-wheel drive. The result? 680 to 720 horsepower. And in 2002, the Adonis hit 359.6 kilometers per hour at Nardò, nearly matching the EB110 SS record, with a car built from leftovers. Materazzi passed away in August 2022 at age 83. The father of the F40 and the EB110 was gone, but his engineering legacy lives in every modern hypercar. Here's what Volkswagen figured out when they bought Bugatti. The EB110's formula, quad-turbo engine, all-wheel drive, carbon fiber construction, wasn't just innovative. It was the template for modern hypercars. When VW developed the Veyron, what did they use? A quad-turbocharged W16 engine. All-wheel drive. Carbon fiber monocoque. Sound familiar? The Veyron wasn't a reinvention. It was an evolution of what Romano Artioli and Nicola Materazzi had already proven possible. The Chiron continues the formula. So does every serious hypercar since. The EB110 didn't just pioneer these technologies. It validated them. In 2019, Bugatti unveiled the 110, Italian for 110, 10 units, 8 million euros each. Design inspired directly by the EB110, with the same horseshoe grille interpretation and similar proportions. It was Bugatti's official acknowledgement that the EB110 mattered, that Romano Artioli's car deserved recognition, that the forgotten supercar was, in fact, foundational. 30 years later, the car that bankrupted its creator became the inspiration for an 8 million euro tribute. Irony doesn't get much sharper than that. Today, an EB110 GT sells for roughly $2.5 to $3.5 million. The rarer Supersport, $3.5 to $5 million, or more. In 1992, these cars cost $350,000. That's nearly 10 times appreciation in 30 years. The car that destroyed Artioli's finances has become one of the most valuable collectibles of its generation. The investors who bought them got rich. The man who built them lost everything. Sometimes automotive history is beautiful. Sometimes it's just cruel. Imagine if the recession had come 2 years later. Imagine if Artioli hadn't bought Lotus. Imagine if Materazzi had stayed. Imagine if the EB112 had reached production. Bugatti might have survived, might have evolved, might have built the Veyron itself under Italian ownership, with the original dreamer still at the helm. Instead, Volkswagen got the glory. Artioli got bankruptcy papers, and the EB110 got forgotten. Until now. Let's be absolutely clear about what the EB110 accomplished technically. One of the first production supercars to use a full carbon fiber monocoque, built by an aerospace contractor. One of the first supercars to prove that all-wheel drive could work at extreme speeds, not just in theory, but in a car you could actually buy. And the first road car to use 4 turbochargers in a coherent, functional package. The Veyron didn't invent any of this. Neither did the Chiron, the Rimac Nevera, or any modern hypercar. The EB110 did, in 1991. Built by an Italian car dealer with a dream and an architect cousin who'd never designed a car. That's not just impressive. That's absurd. Romano Artioli is still alive as of this recording. He's in his 90s now. He spent 39 years chasing a dream, 4 years living it, and 3 decades watching others profit from his vision. The Veyron, the Chiron, the 110 tribute that costs more than his entire bankrupt company was worth. Artioli never got rich from Bugatti's revival. He got the opposite. But he proved something that no amount of money can buy. That a single obsessed individual can resurrect a legend, advance technology by a decade, and change what supercars would become. The tragedy isn't that he failed. The tragedy is that he succeeded, and still lost everything. The Bugatti EB110 belongs in the same conversation as the McLaren F1, the Porsche 959, and the Ferrari F40. Not because it sold the most units, not because it made the most money, but because it moved the entire industry forward. It proved what was possible. It showed that small turbochargers, carbon fiber, and all-wheel drive could coexist in a road car that actually worked. Every hypercar since stands on foundations the EB110 laid. It's time we acknowledge that. Here's what the Bugatti EB110 teaches us about the supercar business. You can build the fastest car, you can hire the best engineers, you can create technology that defines the next 30 years, you can get Michael Schumacher as a customer, and you can still go bankrupt. Because supercars aren't just about engineering. They're about timing, economics, and luck. Romano Artioli had the first. He didn't have the last two. But his car, his beautiful quad-turbo, all-wheel drive, carbon fiber masterpiece, that car outlived the company, outlived the bankruptcy, outlived the doubt. And it's still teaching Bugatti how to build hypercars today. Next time on Supercar Chronicles, the Vector W8. The American supercar that promised to destroy Ferrari and Lamborghini with twin-turbo power and fighter jet styling. How Gerald Vigert's aerospace fantasy became a corporate nightmare, and why the Indonesian government ended up owning his dream. The Bugatti EB110 wasn't just a car. It was proof that passion can outrun logic. That an Italian car dealer could embarrass Ferrari. That the guy who made the F40 could build something even faster. It was also proof that passion alone isn't enough. Romano Artioli dreamed for 39 years, built for 4, and lost everything. But his car became immortal. If this story of ambition, engineering genius, and tragic timing resonated with you, subscribe. We tell the stories that history forgot. This is Supercar Chronicles, where legends live forever, even when their creators don't.